over total credits ratio, and conventional banks real sector credits over total credits ratio. You see, participation banks are over the conventional banks. Here we see perfectly that the participation banks are supporting the real sector. Until this point, I wished to brief you the developments in banking sector in Turkey. But I have said in the beginning, besides banking sector, now other financial instruments, other elements of the financial system are developing in equity market and also in money market instruments. In equity market instruments side, we have now some Islamic indices, some exchange trade funds, and some pension funds which are run abiding with Islamic rules. Benchmark Islamic indices, exchange trade funds, and at Istanbul Stock Exchange. There are three benchmark indices. Those are participation index, Dow Jones Islamic Turkey, SMB Turkey, let's say. And there are 4 commodity-based exchange traded funds and 2 index-based exchange trade funds. When we talk about participation index is a stock index comprising securities traded at Istanbul Stock Exchange and conforming to participation principles. Companies are also required to achieve some financial ratios to be eligible for taking place in the index. Addition to be selected based on index rules set up according to participation principles. In Turkey, when you say participation principles, that means Islamic. Top 30 companies with the biggest value of such securities constitute the index companies. It may be used as a benchmark return for index investments and can be formed as a basis for investment funds, exchange investment funds, and individual pension funds adopted in participation index rules. The 2 index-based ETFs are Dow Jones Turkey ETF and Participation Index ETF. I will emphasize participation one. And as I have said before, there are 4 commodity-based ETFs. Those are Istanbul Gold ETF, Istanbul Silver ETF, Kuwait Turk Gold ETF, and Kuwait Turk Silver ETF. Shares complying with participation principles are what? The basic principle is not to be active in fields of interest-based financing, interest-based intermediation, alcoholic drinks, press, publication, advertisement, tourism, entertainment, tobacco products, weapons, futures of gold, silver, and currency trades. These are forbidden for participation, those which will be included to the participation index. Katılım means participation in Turkish. Katılım Index Exchange Traded Fund. This is a very new one, which launched in December 2012. It is a katılım or participation index-based ETF. Fund shares are traded on Istanbul Stock Exchange. Investors can buy and sell katılım index exchange traded fund as they buy and sell other stocks. Thus, it provides the investors the opportunity to buy and sell katılım index that the fund represents. Katılım Index Exchange Traded Fund is a special variation of an investment fund. That the fund portfolio is formed of stocks in an index by their proportions, in the index, and fund shares are traded in the stock exchange. The criteria to be able to be included to the Katılım Index ETF, companies whose total interest-bearing debt divided by market capitalization is 30% or less than 30%. This is a condition, a financial condition. Those whose interest-bearing cash plus securities divided by market capitalization is also should be less than 30%. Those whose inappropriate revenues divided by total revenues should be less than 5%. The detailed information about the index methodology can be found in the website address. Dividends will not be reinvested and held in the portfolio. They will be transferred to the investors in proportion to their fund shares after expenses, legal payments, and fees are deducted. Thus, investors can differentiate their dividends delivered by stocks in the fund portfolio and the fund earnings. They can also immediately get their dividends without waiting sale of their fund shares. Until now, I mentioned about the indexes and the ETFs. Now, I briefly will give some information about pension funds. Also, it is a new development. Starting with January 2013, the Turkish government gives an incentive for savings. If you save 100 in a pension fund, the government grants to you 25, and your saving becomes 125. But there is a condition: you cannot withdraw for 10 years. If you keep your money for 10 years, 25% incentive will be added, granted by the government. Therefore, the pension funds are now, special private pension funds are now growing in Turkey. In participation side, one of four participation banks, Bank Asya, established another company for pension fund management. And now there are preparations for Albaraka Türk and Kuwait Türk to establish a partnership, establishing a joint stock company to run a pension fund. There are three funds in Asya Pension Fund. I will give some idea, the name of the first one is Conservative Participation Flexible Pension Fund. Number of participants are 38,134. Volume is about 11 million US dollar as of today. Here you see the shares of the investment in the fund. Around 76% is in public government interest-free instruments. Because now in Turkey there are sukuks issued by Turkish Treasury. And this fund invests in sukuks issued by Turkish Treasury. It is 76%. Domestic shares around 7.5%, and around 17% is unrestricted investment account, that is participation account. Second, another fund is growth-aimed participation equity pension fund. This is very risky fund. Minimum 80% of the fund is invested in shares. Therefore, it is riskier. Here also there are 29,000 participants, and the volume of the fund is around $4 million, which is lower compared to 11 million in